I think a large impact on my career or just my musical expression has honestly been Blade. I am really inspired by a lot of his lyricism and a lot of his visuals, and I started filming some covers of different Blade songs and posting them to like different subreddits and to YouTube. And that really was helpful in growing my audience. And you wouldn't think there's a lot of overlap in the type of music that I make and the type of music that Blade makes and like what people like, but there's a surprising amount of people who are more into the like indie Midwest emo style stuff that I make that also like apparently Swedish cloud rap. I'm really proud of my songwriting ability. I think I'm generally a very creative person, and creative expression just kind of comes very naturally to me. I would like to think that I'm a pretty good leader and I'm good at getting people to have fun. Music, it was never really a thing that I consciously decided that I was going to start to do. It was just something that happened, and I think it's something that's very necessary for me in the way that my brain processes things. Like I'll have a long day, the first thing I want to do is come home and pick up the guitar and work on writing something. It's something that I guess was probably inspired by the way that music is in my family. We were always listening to music. My dad was a roadie for 10, 15 years, and that's how he ended up in Kansas, was touring with different bands, driving tour buses, taking care of all that stuff. So yeah, music has always been really important to me, and it's always been just kind of a no-brainer that I will be doing music. Never put the I in love you, I can't even stand to look. Worried but I try to love you like snowglobe spot but never shook. So the first little opening line there was the first part of the song that I wrote, because I wrote it all kind of chronologically, and I had this idea of the line, never put the I in love you, I can even stand to look. It's kind of a little play on words, like I don't say I love you, I just say love you, because it feels less intense, but also like I can't even stand to look is a reference to how challenging I used to find eye contact. So yeah, this kind of, I think, sets the theme of the song being kind of about struggling with attachment. Proof that I spent the night somewhere vaguely nice, it'd be where I'd choose to move myself apart from all the ice. So this is kind of like extending from the snow globe thing, the idea of a souvenir. I went through this phase of really desperately trying to connect with people just to say that I had done it. I was almost 18 and hadn't had my first kiss and was like, this is bad, I have to fix this. And so there's this idea of like proving that I'd been somewhere, that I'd done something, even if it wasn't something that I wanted. So it sits with bones and rocks and perfume at home on my shelf, only taken out just to indulge you, never for myself. And the trinkets would all pile up as I keep shrinking down. I pushed my reason to my throat and made a different sound. Yeah, still like the trinkets, it's about like kind of collecting these things and collecting these relationships with people, even though I don't find them super valuable and they're just kind of accumulating around me. I'm a bit of a clutterer. I have a lot of things, and the shelf that I'm talking about, I have just a bunch of squirrel bones and iCarly perfume and rocks that I find. On my way in today, I picked up a couple sticks on the ground because I just like the way that they looked. I have a bunch of just random stuff everywhere, pine cones. And when I'd go to sleep somewhere, the trinkets take my place. They're gorgeous to admire, but I can't give up my space, and I have to try to love them. Love isn't just like stuff, it's a diluted metaphor that doesn't mean that much. Yeah, I kept going with the idea of clutter and the idea of like gathering stuff, and at the end of it I was kind of backtracking on it a little bit to be like, that's not really what love is, that's not really what attachment is, I'm just saying that, it doesn't actually mean that much. And then the idea of like, when I go to sleep somewhere, the trinkets take my place. I was starting to lose a lot of sleep over a lot of these connections I was trying to form, and I was feeling very cluttered. And I have a loft bed. I actually have a lot of clutter in my bed. I have a shoebox full of sparkling water cans, like a MIDI keyboard, just a bunch of stuff up there at all times. I pretty much always sleep next to my acoustic guitar, which should not do because that's bad for the guitar. But there's always a lot of clutter around me, and I started to see this clutter as very similar to my emotional clutter. I think it's fair to say that it's all clutter at its core, something to fill up space and time with no function, just a form. And maybe I'm just broken or too young to understand the whole purpose of love, not shaking snow globes buying land. So this part, I just keep saying, again, the clutter. But I had this idea about love that it was something that people were kind of lying about, that it was something that like wasn't all that necessary, but that was just desired because everybody said they wanted it. It fills up space and time. It's just kind of something decorative, and it doesn't actually serve any purpose. It's so funny to like think about these lyrics now because my outlook has changed so much in the short amount of time it's been since I wrote it. Yeah, but that last part, the whole purpose of love, not shaking snow globes by in land, just kind of things that I think highlight me being naive, which is something I really wanted to evoke with this. With like, I'm just kind of a dumb kid. I don't really know what I'm talking about. And maybe my ambition is a pitiful display of talent turned to skill turned into 10-year summer break. And maybe by the end of this I'll just do the right thing, go to a good college and forget that I can sing. So this is about some of the struggles I've faced with being unsure about what to do in terms of what comes next after high school, and just this idea of like, is a creative career possible for me? Would I even want that? Would that be something that's actually fulfilling for me, or would it become something where like I'm commodifying this really important part of myself and my expression? I don't know myself as well as everyone I know. They'll give me names and gifts and words and tell me where to go. My attempts to orient myself are laughable at best. Still need mnemonic trickery for north, south, east, and west. This one is about genuinely my horrible sense of direction, which has also improved since writing the song. It's hard to stomach anything when you've got guts of straw, and it's hard to stand up for yourself when you're not very tall, and it's terrifying to imagine one day waking up, realizing I'm stranded, realizing I'm stuck. Hard to stomach anything when you've got guts of straw. I find it very hard to process emotion if I can't sing about it, if I can't write about it. It becomes something that can like really mess me up. But additionally, I have a really horrible stomach. I cannot eat gluten. I recently found out McDonald's hash browns have gluten in them, and that was possibly the most devastating moment of my life. So that's the guts of straw thing. It's hard to stand up for yourself when you're not very tall. I'm not very tall. In terms of like physical strength and like stature that would allow myself to like fight, I don't think I'm quite there. It's terrifying to imagine one day waking up, realizing I'm stranded, realizing I'm stuck. This line I think was at least partially inspired by Presumably Dead Arm by Sydney Gish, which is one of my favorite songs ever. There's this part of it where she goes, I'll be 30 and happy, likely married to personified business casual khakis. And it's just this idea of like waking up one day and being stuck in a life that you don't want. It's always really spoken to me because I think that's one of my greatest fears ever. So kind of ending the song on my biggest fear, I think, was something that I wanted to do.